This week on Channel 8 News, we'll be looking at the impact of Hurricane Ian, Ukraine's military progress in the east, and more. Your Channel 8 News starts right now.
Thanks for tuning in to Channel 8 News, the show where we provide news coverage on the Northwest Missouri State University campus and in the Maryville community. I'm Katie Byrd.
And I'm Alexis Kuhnert. Before we get into this week's stories, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications button for all the latest news and updates.
One day after Russian President Putin announced the annexation of close to 1/5 of the Ukrainian territory, Ukraine claims its military has been making progress on the battlefield. CNN's Nick Patton-Walsh has more on that.
Well, after a tumultuous day of rhetoric from the Kremlin, Ukrainian forces appear overnight to continue be making gains around the strategic Russian-held town of Liman. The encirclement there, perhaps while not at this stage entirely complete, certainly causing a degree of panic amongst pro-Russian commentators, because essentially once the thousands of Russian troops in that town are fully encircled, they may have to surrender, and it may have a rolling impact back towards Russian positions further inside Luhansk. That's one of the 4 areas that Vladimir Putin yesterday said are now part of Russia. Indeed, as is where I'm standing, that speech in the Kremlin at times divorced from the reality of how poorly Russian forces are doing on the ground. We've heard today too that the death toll from one of the more startling acts of Russian brutality we've seen over the past weeks, a rocket strike outside of the town of Zaporizhia, which hit a civilian convoy of people trying to deliver aid into occupied areas. Well, that death toll has risen to 30 and 88 people injured. Utterly staggering, frankly, that in an area which on Thursday night Russia declared was part of Russia, in their opinion, Zaporizhia, the first thing they would do the next morning is launch a rocket strike like this against civilians. The United States, though, conscious of what they refer to nuclear saber rattling we've heard from Vladimir Putin, the backdrop to his at times absurd-sounding claims that all these areas of Ukraine, which are still being fought over, still partially occupied by Ukrainian military forces who are on the advance, that these are all part of Russia. The backdrop to that of nuclear threats that Vladimir Putin has made. The US Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, saying that they have not seen specific indications that Russia is preparing to use nuclear weapons. So clear messaging from the US trying to calm the febrile atmosphere around that particular threat. But at the same time, too, we're also hearing from Ukrainian officials that the director of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plants may have been detained by Russian forces during a Russian patrol inside occupied areas. So the backdrop of the threat of some kind of nuclear incident always in the background here, but none of that, all the rhetoric we're hearing from Moscow, can distract from the fact that Ukrainian forces appear to be continually moving forwards here, and Russia's conventional army, despite the recent partial mobilization, still isn't holding ground here. Nick Patton-Walsh, CNN, Kramatorsk, Ukraine.
Again, that was Nick Patton-Walsh with CNN.
Ian is now a post-tropical cyclone as it moves further inland. Ian is being described as one of the largest natural disasters in Florida's history. At least 67 people are dead, and officials fear that number could rise. The damage is catastrophic. CNN's CONOR Powell is in Arcadia, Florida, with the latest on the cleanup efforts.
Southwest Florida continues to clean up after Hurricane Ian, but here in Arcadia, they are facing a new threat, rising floodwaters. You can see behind me, the road to Arcadia is just swallowed up by tons of fresh water. That's all the heavy rain that Central Florida saw the last couple of days. It's just taken over this entire part of Florida, and there are just a whole host of concerns this entire region is facing going forward.
Parts of Florida's southwestern coast are unrecognizable. Days after Hurricane Ian slammed into the Sunshine State, just shy of a Category 5 storm, residents are still dealing with catastrophic flooding.
6-8 inches of water throughout the house.
Rescue crews have saved hundreds of people stranded in their homes, but still many more need help.
It's really just a heart-wrenching operation. Generally, the victims, the survivors are just thrilled to see the Coast Guard, the rescuers, and frankly, we're thrilled to see the people who survived.
One of the hardest hit areas is Sanibel Island, where the only road to get there from the mainland is now in pieces.
Part of the dining room roof collapsed right into the dining room. That's when we started to get concerned.
I bet.
And we stayed there. We had to spend the night there, which was nerve-wracking.
Dozens of people have been confirmed dead, and the death toll continues to rise. Officials say it could take years to rebuild.
There have been more than 1,100 rescues since the start of the storm, during the storm, after the storm, and as we see floodwaters rise here in the next day or so, we could see several more, many more rescues as well. In Arcadia, Florida. Connor Powell, back to you.
Again, that was Connor Powell with CNN. When we return, we'll be kicking it over to the Bearcat Update with Skyler Stamps. Don't go away. Welcome back to Channel 8 News. I'm Katie Byrd.
And I'm Alexis Kuhnert. Before we continue the news, we're going to kick it over to Bearcat Update with Skyler Stamps.
Thanks, ladies. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Skyler Stamps. This past week, the women's soccer team was back in action on the Bearcat pitch. I had the coverage of the conference matchup. The Northwest Missouri State soccer team was back at home on the Bearcat pitch last Sunday, where they took on the Lopers from Nebraska Kearney. Entering the game, the Bearcats sat at 9th place in the MIAA, while the winless Lopers were tied for last. Before we get into the game, I wanted to congratulate the all-time goal leader at Northwest, Kaylee Rock, who broke the previous record of 42 goals. Unfortunately, Rock was unable to play in Sunday's game. The ball was kicked off and the game was underway. From the beginning, the Bearcats stood their ground as they controlled the ball most all of the first half. Though the ball control was there, the Bearcats were unable to net any goals as the score remained 0-0 at the half. After halftime, the Bearcats flipped a switch and turned the game into a scoring fest. Adele Gore gets the first goal to put the Bearcats up 1-0. 10 minutes later, Gore gets fouled, which led to Caitlin Case scoring on the penalty kick for the 2-0 lead. Tegan Blackburn would net the third goal of the day as she snuck it past the Lopers goalie, resulting from the double assist. Zoe Dibble's final goal of the day was so crazy that my camera couldn't even catch it. Dibbles was halfway to midfield as she sent a strike to the upper left corner of the goal where the Loper goalie had no chance. The score would remain the same as the Bearcats took the win over the Lopers 4-0 and improved their record to 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. After the game, I talked to Caitlin Case, where she talked about what this win meant for the Bearcats as they continue with MIAA play.
It gives us really good energy going on the road because the first 2 games are kind of shaky, but we're expecting to have a key player back to help us. We're really eager to play these opponents coming up. We're confident in what we have.
The Bearcats dropped their one game this week at Emporia State in a tightly contested match. The team will be back to Bearcat pitch on October 14th. From the pitch to the turf, our Bearcat football team had a tough challenge this weekend against the Missouri Western Griffins. After being down 3-0 at halftime, they overcame the Griffins with a second-half shutout, securing their 16-3 win. Jack Dunning highlighted a group of players that had a big part in their victory.
That front four for the Bearcats, so dominant, not allowing any holes to be opened up.
This week was a tough battle for our team going up against the Missouri Western Griffins. Both Jordan Moya and Mike Hohensee being out with injury meant that our defense would need a near-perfect game. This puts a lot of strain on the defensive line, considering that we ran a majority zone defense, which means you either get quick pressure or you give up a completion, and our D-line was up to the challenge. This first play was really well done by Elijah Green. He starts with a bull rush using his lower pad level to drive the offensive tackle back. Then when he is in the backfield, he shoves the tackle away with his left arm and sacks the quarterback. This play was made by Zach Howard. He gets off the ball and quickly notices the guard is doubling Elijah Green. This means that he has a one-on-one against the center, so he uses his outside leverage to easily get around the center with a swim move and generate pressure, which forces the quarterback to roll out. This allows the linebacker to make a play, forcing the incompletion. Our Bearcat D-line wasn't only efficient against the pass, however, they were also very dominant against the run. This was a base run play where every O-lineman starts running and trying to block to their left, and hopefully either create a hole or a cutback lane for the running back. However, the defensive tackles do a really good job fighting the direction of the O-line, and Elijah Green staying home, taking away the cutback lane, sets up an easy tackle for the linebacker. This next play is a zone run play where the guards pull, and the hole is supposed to be right between the two defensive tackles. However, Zach Howard fights against the center's down block and leaves no hole for the running back, allowing for an easy tackle for loss by Elijah Green. Overall, our defensive line created a steel curtain, not allowing anything to come easy for the offense, which ultimately resulted in a Bearcat win. With KNWT Channel 8, this was Jack Dunny.
Well, that is all the time we have here for Bearcat Update. Be sure to tune in next week to stay connected to all things Bearcat sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Skyler. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at America's Got Talent comedian Adam Grabowski's presentation on mental health and how one fraternity raised money for the Special Olympics. Stay tuned for more.
KNWT for Hire is all about sharing a story, a message, and connecting the community. We cover a multitude of events, both within the university and Maryville. We roll in, we set up, and we capture. We're here to offer an experience, not only for those present, but for all.
What's up? Garrett's not here, and I'm Austin Claypool. You should come watch our show, and by our, I mean my show, Gen 2, which is all about video games. We goof off a lot, and by we, I mean me. And we have some game show type segments as well. So come check us out, and by us, I mean me.
Welcome back to Channel 8 News. I'm Katie Byrd.
And I'm Alexis Kuhnert. According to America's Got Talent judge Simon Cowell, the funniest comedian Adam Grabowski showed up to Northwest to talk about mental health. Here's what we know. Last Wednesday, the Student Activities Council started its fall lecture series in the Charles Johnson Theater. They invited comedian Adam Grabowski to come talk about mental health. Grabowski has headlined in all 50 states, performed for 750 colleges, and was featured on America's Got Talent. Grabowski is a creator of the #SayItAnyway campaign to inspire people to share their truth about mental wellness, life experiences, and all things that come with being human. I spoke with Adam Grabowski as well as Mackenzie Wilcoxon, a sophomore here at Northwest.
Pain only exists in your mind. So you could have a pain from something and it might not be telling you anything at all. You could have a pain that's telling you your arm is broken. It is an alarm system. And a lot of our pain is tied up with situations that happen to us, or traumas, or scenarios, or some sort of accident maybe. And I want us to recognize the difference between the indicator that something might be wrong or the reality of something being wrong.
Definitely could relate a lot to him whenever he said his biggest insecurity was him not feeling like he's enough. I feel like a lot of people, especially in college, feel that way when you're trying to be successful, trying to get all A's, or just trying to pass. And I just feel like that definitely hit home for me because I've dealt with that for a very long time.
Treat yourself as though you are helping out a friend with the same problem as what you're going through. So if you're not sure what you should do in a scenario, think, what would I say to somebody I love and care about that's going through the same thing?
What the hell was that?
In Grabowski's words, the #SayItAnyway campaign is a simple belief that sharing openly and authentically about our emotions, thoughts, and experiments will help eliminate the feelings of shame we have about ourselves. Through Grabowski's encouraging message about mental health, students learn how to better understand their own mental health and to properly care for themselves while in college. This is such an important topic that students can overlook, and Grabowski was able to capture it in a light that made the students reflect on it after the lecture. For the stories that matter to you, this has been Alexis Kuhnert with Channel 8 News.
Many Greek life organizations here at Northwest host many philanthropy events to help raise money for multiple organizations. I met with some of the members of Phi Sigma Kappa to learn more about their fundraising event. On the afternoon of Thursday and Friday, September 29th and 30th, Phi Sigma Kappa hosted their Soka Sig event for Special Olympics at the Union Bell Tower. Students were able to have fun throwing water balloons at the Phi Sigs while donating money to a good cause at the same time. I talked to a couple members of the chapter at the event and learned more about it.
Today we're doing Soka Sig, which is a philanthropy event for Special Olympics. So, number one, I think it's just a great way to meet people on campus. And then number two, it's a great way to help out communities all over the world, whether it's Special Olympics or St. Jude or any of the philanthropies that organizations have on campus or are raising money for. It's just a great way to help people out all around the world. If you're interested, we'll be doing philanthropy events every semester. I know almost every week there's philanthropy events outside of the union. And if you're interested in Greek life, go to Northwest IFC or NWMSU Phi Sig.
Special Olympics is something that we are very passionate about here and nationally, and we just really want to help their cause and just help them just do what they can. Philanthropy-wise, our main one is Special Olympics, and so we are also currently in the works of creating an event for the spring semester, a very large event. I can't really give details right now because it's a secret, but just be on the lookout for that. I think my favorite part so far is that we had a friend come by and she spent $25 to dunk 5 of us with a pitcher, and so as you can see, I'm completely soaked, and so the weather's nice and I'm having a good time.
Phi Sigma Kappa was able to help other students get involved with their philanthropy at this event. Until next time, I'm Katie Byrd with Channel 8 News.
Well, that is all the time we have here at Channel 8 News, but before we go, be sure to click on the links below to rewatch certain sections of our show, as well as some upcoming events here at Northwest we've mentioned in this episode.
We also want to hear from you guys, so leave a comment below on these stories. And be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button for all the latest news and updates, as well as our other content right here on our YouTube page at KNWT TV. For the stories that matter to you, I'm Katie Byrd.
I'm Alexis Kuhnert.
And have a great night.